Hey guys, today I want to do a first impressions video on a game that I've been waiting for a long time, and that game is Resident Evil 6. I bought the PlayStation 3 version, as you can see, and I'm not gonna go over the story or anything. I'm very early into the game. I already beat Leon Kennedy's campaign, single player campaign, so I'm ready to jump into the next character. So I'm not gonna touch the story because I don't want to spoil anything. I might do a review once I complete the game 100%, but I just want to touch really quick on some of the things that relate to the game, like graphics, controls, gameplay. But I want to start by I guess ranting a little bit on how Capcom handled the release of the game, and I'm a little bit upset because Resident Evil 6, I mean, it's a mainline game in the Resident Evil series. I mean, it has a number on it. It's Resident Evil 6 is the game that fans of the series have been waiting for a long time. Throughout the years, we see Capcom releasing spin-off games or games that are not really part of the of the mainline series. They release Umbrella Chronicles, Darkside Chronicles, Raccoon City, Revelations for the 3DS, so all kinds of games. But for a mainline Resident Evil game that has a number on it, I think Capcom should take things seriously, in the sense that they have to give a higher production value more than the normal Resident Evil game out there. And the reason why I'm upset, the first thing that caught my attention, and I was already disappointed from the get-go, is the cover. I mean, look at the cover. Very simplistic, doesn't say a whole lot. I just don't like the cover of the game. Usually, I mean, I'd like for the games to have a nice cover, especially if it's a game that I've been waiting for a long time. And I think it's important to convey the message through through the cover. I think the cover of the game is very important, and that's the first disappointment that I have with the game. Just a generic cover with the number 6, like it's like a GUI type of number 6, I guess, with the virus, C virus cell or whatever. But disappointed, from the get-go already. And then another thing that really bothered me is that for the mainline Resident Evil games, I usually get the collectors or the limited editions. I did it with Resident Evil 4, which GameStop had the exclusive collector's edition, and it came with this portrait or whatever. It came with like a comic book, and it came in this very nice steel case. With the Resident Evil 5, I got also the limited edition, and it came with all the goodies that you guys see here in the back, as well as the game came in a steel case. For Resident Evil 6, here in America, I was extremely disappointed. I mean, Capcom of America, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. This is a major release. This is a mainline Resident Evil series game, and they did not really release any collector's edition or anything. The closest thing that they did is the anthology version of Resident Evil 6, which it's $90. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, just look up on YouTube an unboxing of the anthology version. It's pretty much this game right here with a cardboard cover that looks exactly like this, the same cover, except it says anthology here at the bottom. And the only difference is that you take the cardboard cover, you open your game, and you get a one single sheet of paper with codes with downloadable codes for Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, Resident Evil 4, and Resident Evil 5. It's a good packet for those that are new to the Resident Evil series, but they're all downloadable games. I mean, why not include, I'm not gonna say the discs because it's pretty hard to do that, but just include like a special type of voucher for each one that has like like an art thing of Resident Evil 1, and then for the Resident Evil 2 code, a separate sheet of in a nice material with like I don't know, like something special. I mean, the anthology version is nothing special at all. In fact, I had that pre-order, and I was hoping that they would include something else for $90. I mean, like a soundtrack CD or an art book, but none of that. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I was checking the other regions. I think like Australia, Europe, they got some pretty cool collector's edition. Like I believe in Australia, I'm not sure if Europe had the same one, but in Australia, for example, the limited edition came with a Ivy University hoodie that you can wear, you know, stuff like that. You know, it doesn't have to be out of the ordinary or something extremely expensive or special, but you know, just throw in an art book, throw in a CD. I'll gladly pay, you know, 10 more bucks for something like that. So the anthology version was a huge disappointment. I'm glad I canceled my pre-order and just went with the regular version of the game. The next thing is, and this is not exclusive to Resident Evil, but a lot of games are doing this, no manual. I mean, look at this. It has a promo for the Resident Evil Damnation movie, and this thing right here, which is the warranty. No, this is a huge budget, you know, like a high budget release. No art on the back, like high profile games like Uncharted and heck, even like Duke Nukem Forever had some art in this in the back here, but this is plain white. So I guess Capcom just didn't really, they didn't put any love into packaging the game. So I'm disappointed with that. You know, for games that I really like, and you know, I'm a fan of, I really want to have a nice cover. I want to have like a limited edition with a soundtrack or an art book. I want the developer to put a lot of attention to details, include instructions manuals and whatnot, but you know, whatever. But you know, the most important thing is the game, obviously. After finishing Leon's campaign, I'm very disappointed. I think this might be my least favorite Resident Evil game in the franchise. The game is not terrible, like some of the reviews out there are making it to be. Some of the reviews that I've seen, I think one publication gave the game a 3 out of 10, and I think GameSpot gave it like a 45 out of 100 or a 4.5 out of 10. So the game is getting you know, hit with a lot of bad reviews. Rightfully so. There are some things in the game that I really don't like, but if there's one, I guess, description that fits this game is, I guess, polarizing, because the game has some highs where, you know, it has some really interesting sections full of, you know, I guess, action and interesting parts, and then there are a lot of lows as well, where the game is just boring, the level design is absolutely terrible, and unfortunately the low points are more frequent than the high points in this game. One thing that really upset me, and this is in general, not just Resident Evil 6, but just the general direction the franchise is going. It seems like with every new iteration in the mainline games, they're going for that Hollywood-esque action, super action movie type of, you know, scenarios. Like, you know, the game starts, and this is not a spoiler because Capcom revealed, you know, this sequence at E3. That was the first video that they revealed. It begins with like Leon and his partner Helena in you know, downtown China somewhere, and you know, you have to, you know, get into this chopper, and then you have to fly the chopper with Leon, and the chopper loses control and the engine shuts off, and then you know, you have to jump out of the chopper, and then as you jump out of the chopper you land, and then when you land there's this airplane that crashed into a building, and the plane falls off and lands on top of a fuel truck, and the fuel truck explodes. So you go into this quick time event sequence where you have to press like a million buttons. I mean, it's just, it's getting out of hand really, and it's really upsetting me. And unfortunately, the series is not gonna change um, anytime soon. I think, because you know, Resident Evil 5, I believe, is the highest selling game of all time, and I think it's because of the action. Like, people really enjoy the more action based games, more like cover based games, like, you know, like Gears of Wars or Uncharted, which is fine, but you know, I love Resident Evil 4, which, you know, it was a drastic change in the series, but you know, give me a break. I mean, 5 was more of what Resident Evil 4 was, but you know, even with more action, and now Resident Evil 6 is just blown out of proportion. The survival horror aspect of the game has been lost, really. I mean, I have not seen, or I have not experienced yet, any single scene in the game that really scared me, or that gave me that that feeling of being you know, in desperation trying to escape, like in Resident Evil 1 or even Resident Evil 3, when you knew Nemesis was gonna, you know, show up at any time. The series is losing touch, and really quick and fast. Like, I'm not a fan of where the series is heading right now, which is unfortunate, because, you know, I'm a huge fan of the series. And you know, Resident Evil 6 is, like I said, it's a super Hollywood action production, straight out of a James Bond movie, but you know, it's still fun. It's fun in some ways. Like I said, I only did Leon's campaign, but another thing that really upset me was the lack of attention, I guess, in some of the animations. Some of the animations just look really awkward and bad. And a lot of people were making fun of this, actually, when the game got released not too long ago, when you know, when you praise your partner, for example, there's a command to praise your partner, and you say thanks and you give a thumbs up. You see this like this rubber arm animation that looks like it was done by like a 3D animation sophomore student. You know, it's like, why does it look so bad? Like, can't you do like a proper motion capture animation? And there's that's not the only animation that looks awkward, and there's several points in the game where you find annoying little things that keep adding up. Another thing, for example, there's a scene in where early in the game where you have to go with Leon to this cathedral, because there are a few survivors in there. So you go and to check them out, and once you get in the cathedral has like torches everywhere. So it has this flame or fire type of lighting in the room. And then when you open the next room after that, the room has like this blue tint color to it. So when you walk from the cathedral to the blue room, you see the change. It's almost like the game puts a filter, like a blue filter on top of it, and then you back out back to the cathedral where there's a lot of flames, and the blue filter just comes out. Like, there's no smooth transition in any of the lighting effects. It's really hard to explain for those of you that play the game. Probably you may or may have not noticed that, but in my opinion, that's inconceivable for a high-profile mainline Resident Evil game like that. It really irks me, and I really want the developers to put love and attention to every small detail, because personally, I take note of things like that. Then you have the multiplayer. The Mercenaries mode is available from the get-go, although there's only one level. I'm not sure what you have to do to unlock the next levels. I'm hoping that they're not like DLC content, but the Mercenaries mode, it's very fun, and it adds a lot of replay value to the game. Like I said, it's a fun game, but unfortunately there's more annoying and bad parts, and very unrealistic. And I know this is you know, a Resident Evil game. Of course, it's supposed to be unrealistic because, you know, there's an outbreak of zombies in a city and whatnot, but some of the things are just, you know, extremely exaggerated. And I don't want to go into detail, but, you know, some of those quick time event scenes are just over the top action type of things that, you know, it gets tiring after a little bit. I mean, Resident Evil 4 had a lot of those moments, but, you know, Resident Evil 6 has those moments in like every single chapter and with a very high frequency that just makes the whole game unrealistic. And again, you know, I know it's Resident Evil, I know the story is supposed to be, you know, unrealistic, but it's just too much over the top. The game controls fine, but you do have to do a lot of tweaking. Personally, I had to do a lot of tweaking. With the default settings, I found myself getting like motion sick, so I had to adjust the camera speed and some other things that to, you know, in order for the game to work properly for me at least. So that was a little bit annoying, and surprisingly, the graphics did not improve over Resident Evil 5. In fact, I would go on and say that Resident Evil 5 is a better looking game than Resident Evil 6. Resident Evil 6 has, I think, better character models, but like I mentioned previously, some of the animations are so badly like done that it almost defeats the purpose of having an ultra realistic character model. But, you know, the environments themselves, they don't look as good as Resident Evil 5, which is another, you know, WTF moment. My impression is that Resident Evil 6 was a little bit rushed, and the director of Resident Evil 6, I believe was the assistant director of Operation Raccoon City, and he was also involved in the Outbreak games from the PlayStation 2, which are not that good, I don't think. So, you know, you know, the director of the game, just from his resume, like I mentioned, the previous Resident Evil games that he worked, I'm not a big fan of him, and I get the feeling that the game was rushed. And like I said, you know, the graphics don't look as good as Resident Evil 5. The controls, you have to get used to them. You have to do a lot of tweaking, so that's pretty annoying. Sound-wise, I mean, the game is good. It has pretty good dialogue and voice acting, in my opinion. And you know, the music is always, you know, they try to make it scary, but it's mostly about the sound effects, and they're all pretty well done. And as far as, you know, the most important thing is obviously the gameplay and the fun factor, I guess, and the level design, and just Resident Evil 6 doesn't excel at those. I'm not gonna go ahead and say it's a crappy 3 out of 10 game. It's far from it, but definitely is, in my opinion, the weakest entry in the mainline Resident Evil games. I'm gonna keep playing it though. I did enjoy the story. It was good, nothing great. As far as Leon's scenario, now I'm gonna move on to Chris Redfield's scenario. So I'm hoping the story is gonna be just as good. And like I said, the game has a lot of replay value. You can play this online co-op. Some annoying things about the online co-op is that you cannot invite your friends once you're in progress. You have to like quit the game and create a lobby. That's another thing that's annoying. But yeah, you can play co-op with a friend, and I believe they introduced like a new system where, similar to Demon's Souls, where you can actually invade other people's co-op campaign and as a bad guy, I guess, like as a zombie or something. I haven't tried that yet, but you can invade other people's campaign, which is, I think it's pretty cool, and I want to give that a shot. And like I said, a lot of replay value. The game has a lot of collectibles. You have to unlock like figurines, you know, extra videos, files. So this is the type of game that for for $60 you're gonna get a lot of it, for your money. It's a long game, but it all depends if you can withstand the over-the-top action and some of the control problems that I was mentioning. A lot of people are already giving up on this. A lot of people are very upset. I have some friends that are extremely upset and they're ready to just give up on the game, and I can understand why. But for the most part, I'm enjoying the game, but I think it's a little bit below average, and that is a little bit disappointing because I was expecting a whole lot more. So here's hoping Capcom goes to the old school days, but that's highly unlikely because of sales. But anyways, it's an okay game. I don't regret getting it on launch date. So hopefully when I'm done with all 3 campaigns, I'm gonna be doing a final review video where I'm gonna discuss the story and all of that. So I guess this is it for now. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys later.